Thank you for Patreon now for donating to the Patreon.
Hey guys, it's Vandiazzo back in another Card Fight Vanguard episode. If you guys enjoyed them, like, comment, subscribe, and 1 star, shall we? This time we are covering Tachikaze Ancient Dragons. So, I think it's all well-known fact now that I really hate how they did Ancient Dragons, because they made them based on equip gauges, and I hated, well, I don't hate the equip gauge thing, but I hate that every deck in Tachikaze has it. Like, yeah, Dark Irregulars has every deck that has Soul Base, except some of them take it to a different level, like Blade Wings. Tachikaze had true Ancient Dragons, and then Ancient Dragons were, 1V would be a sub-archetype, but technically true Ancient Dragons were the sub-archetype of Ancient Dragons. Point is, they didn't have to make Ancient Dragons based off of equip gauge when true Ancient Dragons were just based off of front sacking. What did Bushy do? Make them based off of equip gauges, which is what I hate, but you know, it's fine because the deck does work. It's really good, and I think my curse with Ancient Dragon is slowly being broken as long as I accept this fact, so let's see how it goes. So anyways, let's go ahead and get this deck started, shall we? First up, we have our starter, minimum Carno, grade 0 boost, 10k shield, 6k base. Auto is wrote upon draw a card, then your opponent's Vanguard's a grade 1 or greater, you get a quick show ticket to your hand. Standard starter, nothing special about it. You get a free draw, which you can possibly top deck off of. I know I've top deck off this how many, God knows how many times. Really enough, when I think about it, I have not top decked off this recently. Like, the last time I can remember top decking off of it when I needed to the most was 2-ish years ago, now I think about it. I don't know why. And then the quick shield, you know, 5k shield you can either use for discarding or just a quick 5k shield that can literally defend you from anything. As long as you have a starter with that ability, you are cool with any starter you want. I just prefer minimum Carno because I just like how he looks, you know, he just looks so cute to me, and like him breathing fire. He's a cute little baby dinosaur. Who doesn't want this as their starter? Then we have our trigger lineup. We run 4 Draw PG and Arcbird, grade 0 boost, 0 shield, 5k power. Draw a trigger, contain Sentinel before Sentinel's deck, and Iguanogorg when place this card 1 from your hand, wherever he's cannot be in battle. Okay, I can see arguments to run crit Sentinels because obviously, this is such an aggressive deck, you're not going to have time to constantly have to drop 2 cards to defend yourself, one being the PG and then one being the discard part for the PG. But the reason why I run the PG is because to get the board to be aggressive with, you have to get hand cards to do it. And while yes, Ancient Dragons can definitely pump out a board without needing too many hand cards, the thing is, if you're going up against a deck that can nuke rear guards, you will run into the point where you are going to need to start committing stuff from hand. And from what I've seen with this deck, you will need to be able to commit from hand almost, well, not every turn, but like, just in case you're going to want to have something that can help you commit from hand. The crits don't really do anything, especially because part of your deck is True Ancient Dragons, and the other part can get crits from sacking fronts, so you don't really need crits as much as you just need the fronts and then the draw PG to make sure that you can keep calm rear guard. So 4 draw PG, 8 fronts, 4 copies of Herbivores, Dragon, Brutosaurus, and 4 copies of Pack Dragon Tiny Rex, who has it fucking out for me. Literally every time I play Ancient Dragons or just Tachikazes in general and I run Tiny Rex in it, okay, well this is specifically Ancient Dragons, but just Tiny Rex in general and all my Tachikaze decks hate me, but Ancient Dragons, 3 of them, before I get to grade 3, will be out of my deck. 2 of them typically hit damage zone, 1 of them either ends up in my hand or also hits damage zone, and the last one does not appear till the turn I win on my drive check. I don't know why Tiny Rex does this, it just does. This is a cursed card, it refuses to work with me, but whatever, it's one of my favorite fronts in terms of art and naming, but it doesn't want to be with me. So for Tiny Rex though, you definitely want the 8 fronts because they act as critical triggers, so obviously there's no reason to run crits in this deck. Then we have 4 copies of our healing Younger Parasound, grade 0 boost, 10k, 20k shield, 5k power. It's just a normal heal. You can run the Heal Guardian if you want because they definitely do help in a early rush, but I don't like Heal Guardians. We all know why at this point. If you don't, then go watch the Locks videos and you'll get like a good explanation of why I don't use them and why I don't like them. But the main reason that I don't use them and like them is because they are detrimental to my playstyle. I have the same playstyle that goes around for almost all of my decks that almost never changes. In fact, there's one deck where I do not follow that playstyle, and there's one deck that when I fight against it, I will change that playstyle. Otherwise, it stays the exact same the whole time, and Heal Guardians are detrimental to those entire playstyles. So, 4 Parasounder for me. If you want to run those Heal Guardians, go ahead. If you don't want to run them, follow my lead and get the 20k shield. Either way, it's up to you. Then we move on to our grade 1s. So this is the weird one. So first up we run 2 copies of True Ancient Dragon Albertail, grade 1 boost, 10k shield, 8k base. Continues Vanguard rear during your turn if you have Vanguard. Ancient Dragon's card name gets plus 5k power. So it doesn't specify True Ancient Dragon, but because it has Ancient Dragon in its card name, it gets plus 5k. And every normal unit in this deck is an Ancient Dragon, or a True Ancient Dragon, meaning anything that's on the Vanguard that's normal unit gets this thing will get plus 5. So that's really good. It definitely helps against when you're playing against force decks, so that automatically means it can at least hit a Vanguard without needing a boost. And even if it's just a 5k swing, it's a 5k swing that's going to force out something, so that's a plus. And then Auto Vander Rear, the standard ability of True Ancient Dragons. I specified True Ancient Dragons because the normal ones don't have it anymore because they wanted to focus on equip gauge for whatever reason. Once per turn, when your drive check reveals a front trigger, you may have this unit get a crit for the turn. That's really good. because that means all of your fronts turn into crit triggers as well. So technically speaking, what your lineup here is 4 heals, 4 draw PGs, and 8 front/8 crits, technically speaking, as long as your front row has true ancient dragons in them. Because that means if your front row has all true ancient dragons, for example, that means, like, say for example, you have 4 front row units, 1 of them being the vanguard, 3 of them being rear guards. Then when you just take a front trigger, plus 10 to all your front row, and then all of them get extra crit, so you're swinging for 8 damage and at least 15k drops all around. So True Ancient Dragon is really good. With the front stacking, Abertail is one of my favorite grade 1s, and that's why he's here. I didn't have to run him at 2, because I could have just cut him, but I really like him. He was definitely one of my favorite True Ancient Dragons when they first came out, so I'm going to run him. I'm going to do him respect. He's staying in this deck at 2 of. You can take him out if you want, but I'm keeping him here. Then we have 2 copies of True Ancient Dragon Petrified. Same story as Abertail. He is one of my favorites. He is staying here regardless of whether you like it or not. You can take him out if you want, but I am keeping him because he is one of my favorites, and I'm going to do him justice. Because genuinely, I like pterodactyls, and he is a pterodactyl, so obviously he gets to stay. Grade 1 boost, 10k shield, 8k base. Auto Vanner rear, when it's attack or the attack it boosted hits a vanguard. Look at top 7, call up to 1 Ancient Dragon from among them to rear guard as rest and shuffle your deck. That's why I run him. That on hit ability has saved me so many times. It can make a board in the early game. Hell, when I used to run 4 of these, I just called 3 of them to the back row because I had that happen one game. I called 2 grade 1s to the front row because like my whole hand was grade 1s for whatever reason. I bricked, but I was able to just ham swing and then make a better board for next turn, and I was just able to keep it that aggressive front because they couldn't stop me. So it definitely adds on hit pressure, because especially when your opponent knows that you're going to go for the all-out rush, and the quicker you get rear guards in this deck, the better it is for you. So obviously they're going to have to guard whatever units this is behind or in front of. So if you just get a lineup of these, they're either going to have to take some damage and allow you to get some board, or they're going to have to start guarding but be countered by starved. So that's a plus. And then it has the standard True Ancient Dragon ability. It gets 1 crit. So here's just a little rule of thumb that I've learned from all the Ancient Dragons. If it just says Ancient Dragon, they have a once per turn gauge getting ability when you sack a trigger. If it is a True Ancient Dragon, it is a once per turn get a crit when you reveal a front trigger in your drive check. So just take that as either way. 2 copies of Petrified. You can choose to cut these for something else, but I genuinely do just prefer these 2 because they are my favorites, and I'm going to do the justice. Then we move on to our next grade 1 and 4 copies of Ancient Dragon Baby Rex. Hands down, probably one of the best grade 1s here, and I now just realized his arm is a fucking minigun. Grade 1 boost, 10k shield, 8k base. Auto, when this unit with an equip gauge on it is retired from your rear guard by the ability of your Ancient Dragon and its card name. Doesn't matter if it's a rear guard that does it, it doesn't matter if it's a vanguard that does it. If it is a unit skill that retires it while this unit has an equip gauge, you may Soul Blast 1 and bind it. Damn it, Bushy. Search your deck for 1 grade 3 card, call to rear guard, shuffle your deck. Yeah, it says bind it because there... Aren't there ways to recycle in Tachikaze? There is, right? I don't think there's one in V that can recycle, but I do think there's a card in Premium that can recycle stuff in Tachikaze. So that's really nice that it's just a Soul Blast. It's not that heavy in this deck. I mean, unless you're spamming 2 different skills that involve Soul Blast, then you'll run into problems, but it's not really that difficult for the Soul Blast. You get a free grade 3, and it's not a once per turn, so if you have multiple of them, you can just keep making a board out of it, making it so much more dangerous. And with how this deck works, you can effectively stack fronts at the top of your deck with this card skill, so you're just getting, well, with a loop of this skill, so you're just getting a ton of dangerous advantage. You're getting multi-attack, you're getting draft check stacking, you're getting all this extra plus for no reason. And then the ability that all regular Ancient Dragons have, auto rear once per turn. When your draft check reveals a trigger, put the top card of your deck face down as a card, as an equip gauge for this unit. That is a mandatory skill. I always think it's a May for whatever reason, but yes, regardless of what trigger you drive check, if you reveal a front, you reveal a draw, you reveal a crit, you reveal a heal, regardless of what trigger it is, you see a trigger in your drive check, you must put a gauge down for it. This is very deadly because while it does help you get off skills for equip gauge uses, the downside is it's a mandatory gauge, meaning you will deck yourself out so quickly. Like, I remember I played games with this. I would have hit, if I remember that it was mandatory, I would have hit 7 to 6 deck cards from this, and I still would have won, but like 7 to 6 deck cards, that's way too scary for me, and it's way too terrifying. But genuinely it's good though. It's definitely one of the best Ancient Dragons, and you want to run out of 4 of. Then we have 4 copies of Ancient Dragon Iguanogorg, grade 1 boost, 10k shield, 8k base. He is my least favorite in terms of skill, but my favorite in terms of art, just because, like, he's, well, not anymore, because now I know this thing has a minigun on it, but I don't know, he looks like a pharaoh with a dagger, so I think that's cool. Anyways, auto, if this card has no equip gauge on it, this cost is reduced by counterblast of 1. When he's retired from your rear guard by your card's ability, doesn't matter if it's a van, doesn't matter if it's rear, doesn't matter if it's anything, actually by any card's ability, so it could be your opponent's card too. You may counterblast 1 and call to rear guard circle, open rear guard circle as rest. So it can be to the same rear guard circle, or it can be to a different rear guard circle. You just get a free call if it had no equip gauge on it. If it doesn't, it's a counterblast to call. But that's still pretty good because that means you have more sack fodder even if it's coming as rest. And then the equip gauge it had is put into the drop zone when retired and called. And it's not once per turn, so if you can just keep doing it, you can keep doing it. And the auto rear once per turn when your drive check about the trigger, you're gonna get a gauge. That's the last time I'm gonna say it. Like I said before, all ancient dragons have that skill. All true ancient dragons have the extra crit skill. So all around that's pretty good. He can definitely act as like a multi-attack getter because or like not a multi-attack getter, but like a sacrifice card, because he can just keep calling himself back as long as you keep having gauges on him. So that's at least 2 free attempts if you set him up the turn before to have a gauge, and then you call him as rest after you do your drive check, and then he gets the gauge from the drive check. So all around Iguanogorg is really good. He acts as a sacrificial meal for pretty much 2 cards at once, and not to mention that he can kind of allow for board replacement. Like say for example you put him somewhere earlier, now it's like kind of a compromising position because maybe you don't want him in that circle because maybe I don't know, it's as an equipped gauge, you don't want to lock a front row circle with the reverse skill. So obviously you're going to try to move it to back row, so you can just sack it, call it to back row, and then next turn have it. So all around Iguanogorg is really good. It's a nice grade 1, 4 of. Then we move on to grade 2s. 3 copies of the one I hate having to put down to 3, but it definitely makes the most sense. True Ancient Dragon Alanos. The reason why it's down to 3 is because there are a decent amount of cards in this deck that use Counterblast, and unfortunately out of all of them, Alanos, while yes it can make the board the quickest, is the least useful out of all the grade 2s, so he has to go in at 3, which is unfortunate, but still. So grade 2 NSF 5k show, 9k base, really cool art. He, even though I've never seen Jurassic Park, he reminds me of the small clip I saw with like the Dominus Rex, I think it's called, so it looks really cool. Anyways, auto Vanner rear when placed, counterblast from hand, by the way, not from deck, because you can't loop it with his own skill. But good news is, and I learned this recently when I was playing the game with it, he is not restricted to main phase, so you can abuse the skill during the battle phase. Counterblast 1, look at top 3 when placed from hand, and call up to 1 ancient dragon from them to rearguard circle and put the rest on bottom in any order. So you can call himself, but it has to be placed from hand for the skill to go off. But all around that is pretty good, because that means you can use skills like Spinal Driver or, well, yeah, no, Spinal Driver is the only one that can do it during battle phase, but you use Spinal Driver, you call him, you use his skill to call another card, and if you use Spinal Driver's skill to sack a Baby Rex, you can use Baby Rex skill to call grade 3. That means just from one skill you are getting 3 more attacks. That is amazing. That is so good. That is perfect plus right there. That's not a minus at all. And if your opponent sees a trigger, okay, they say a trigger, but that's an intimidating skill that you can just pull off. 3 extra attacks just from 1 retire. And then because he's True Dragon, he has the front get a crit skill. So all around, he's pretty good. He definitely leads to more multi-attack. In the early game, he can definitely help develop a board real quickly. All around, he's definitely one of the better grade 2s to have, except he doesn't do the best on rear because after he's placed, all he has is the once per turn skill with the front. So, and in my luck sacking abilities outside of the turn where I'm about to win, I don't really sack fronts. So because Tiny Rex fucking hates me, and all Herbivores does is like show up in my hand. So 3 copies of Alanis, because making a board is fun and getting multi-attack is amazing. Then move on to 4 copies of True Ancient Dragon Heft Strago, grade 2 NSF 5k shield, 9k base, continues rearguard. If it is on additional rearguard circle, it gets plus a 5k power during both players' turns, and it cannot be retired by your opponent's card effects, but it can be chosen. So that means it can be locked, it can be bound, it can be bounced, it can be returned to deck, it just cannot be retired, so they can't, you know, use Cogro against it, basically. So, you know, it doesn't get full pluses, but he's at least a 19k on an Excel 2, or at least during your opponent's turn he's a 14, and then on Excel 1 during your turn he's a 24. So, you know, he adds for dangerous pluses. He's definitely a pushing force that used to win me a lot of games just because that extra 5k would always give him a little bit of to push past someone, and not to mention he has the once per turn crit thing with the fronts. So all around that's pretty good. Definitely your prime target to get on to an Excel gift if you have one, but if you don't have one, call whatever you want to the Excel gift as long as you can get multi-attack. So Vor of Hefstrago is a good grade 2. It may be simple, but it costs no counterblast, costs no soul blast, and simplicity, in my opinion, is sometimes the best thing you can go with. So 4 of Hefstrago. Then 4 of our final grade 2, Ancient Dragon Dino Crowd, grade 2 intercept 5k shield, 9k base, auto van or rear. When this unit attacks into anything, you may soul blast 1 and kill a rear guard. Until end of battle, this unit gets plus 10, and then for plus 5 for each of this unit's equip gauges. So he's at least a 19k swing. And then if you have at least 1 equip gauge, he gets plus 5. And then he has, you know, the once per turn get a gauge thing. So 24k swing is really good. But here's the thing I use him for. Murder this to call more things. So these are the only 2 cards of the deck that Soul Blast, except because you constantly want to get this off, because while multi-attack is good, multi-attack does nothing if you don't have numbers. So obviously you want to have him go off constantly, and because he acts as a trigger for this thing, obviously you want this to go off, but then because both of them are going off at the same time, that's 2 Soul Blasts a turn. Very hefty, so you got to kill them quickly, because either you're going to deck yourself out from all the searching and drive checking and gauging you're doing, or you're going to want to, like, run out of soul, and you don't want that to happen either. So 4 of Dino Crowd, very good, acts as a second trigger outside of Spinal Driver to get multi-attack during your battle phase, and adds numbers, and is definitely your heaviest hitter. So 4 of Dino Crowd, definitely a really good grade 2, and I like him for that. Then move on to our grade 3s. A lot of you are going to say I'm crazy for not running him at 4, but he is genuinely really good at 3. Like, I have consistently hit him every game, and, like, this is my main target from him anyways. So, 3 copies of Ancient Dragon Tyranno Legend. He is, hands down, the strongest grade 3 in this deck. Hell, I would make him my main grade 3. This whole deck wasn't based around Spino. So, Ancient Dragon Tyranno Legend is a grade 3 twin drive with Excel Gift, 12k base. Auto when he's either placed on Van or placed on Rear, but with an Ancient Dragon by the ability of a card with Ancient Dragon's card name on Rear, it gets plus 10 in a drive. Basically what that means, if it's placed on Van by any means, it gets the 10k in a drive, so 22 with triple drive for the turn. But if it was placed on Rear Guard, it has to be placed by an Ancient Dragon's ability, like such as Alernos or Baby Rex or one of the grade 3s, or one of the other grade 3s, sorry. Then he'll get the skill. And then you may discard one. So you don't have to discard one, but if you choose to, you can choose a front from your drop zone and put it to top. Here's what I do. Call him or ride him by an ability, and he'll get plus 10, and if he's on Vanguard, he gets the extra drive. I mean, he gets the extra drive anyways, but obviously you don't drive check on Rear unless it has an ability that gives it that. And then I just discard a front, and then I put that front right back on top, because typically I don't have a front and drop. But if I do have a front and drop, I don't just drop a front. But either way, pretty good. He guarantees you get a front, and that is so powerful in true Ancient Dragons, because that just means your whole front row swinging for numbers. And if we had more true Ancient Dragons, then Tyranno Legend would be the MVP because he just guarantees everything you need. And especially because there's actually a card that can just call him by abilities. And then in this deck, I guess it's less consistent because, there's a mandatory thing that you have to go through to get extra crits, but either way, Tyranno Legend is an MVP just because he gets fronts. And then Auto Van or Rear, at the end of the battle, he attacked into anything, you may counterblast one, kill another rear guard, draw a card. Okay, simple draw in a counterblast. Doesn't seem worth it. Not till you realize you can just use it with this. And then you can Soul Blast and can then get another Tyranno Legend. Yep. Tyranno Legend is the MVP. You can run him at a 4, but I consistently hit him anyways. Like, I typically could draw 1 in hand, and then the other 2 normally stay in deck until I call them out via Baby Rex or just draw into one of them. And then one time, one of them got damage checked, but it's just how it is. Either way, this deck is consistent. You do only need really 2. The third one's just there just in case. So 3 of Tyranno Legend. It is a deadly beast, and do not fuck with it. And if Bushy gave us more true Ancient Dragons that focused on the front sacking, this deck would be far more dangerous. Then we have our second, or like our technically backup grade 3. All these can work as main grade 3s to be fair with you, but this was like the backup grade 3, I guess. Ancient Dragon Spinal Driver at 3 copies. Grade 3 twin drive Excel Gift, 12k base. Auto when it attacks from Vanguard Circle or is rode upon, not when it attacks into a Vanguard, just when it's attacking from the Vanguard Circle, or once again when it's rode upon. Counterblast 1, kill 2 of the rear guards. Here are your targets, so this can be called back, and then this one gets you this thing, and then you can stack fronts at top. Get an Imaginary Gift Excel, draw, choose a card from your hand, call it to Rear, then choose 2 units, and they get plus 5 for the turn. So here's what you do. You make an Excel Gift, you draw from his skill. I don't know if you draw from the Excel Gift next or not, but if you do, then you do. If you don't, then you do it after you complete the skill. Call someone. You can call Tyranno Legend, and then give this thing and someone else plus 5, and then Tyranno Legend stacks a front at the top, and boom, you haven't done your draft check yet. But if you stacked a Baby Rex, you want to do Baby Rex first. You can still call Tyranno Legend, but you want to do the Baby Rex first, because Tyranno Legend ain't once per turn. You call a second Tyranno Legend, you use both of their skills, so both are at least swinging for 22, unless you call one of them to an Excel Gift, because you just got an Excel Gift, so one of them is at least 27, and you have put 2 fronts on top, and now you are guaranteed double triggers. That's how you make play, and then it has the standard gauge go. That's how you make plays, people. This thing is dangerous. It is not something you want to mess with, because, while yes, the counterblast is somewhat hefty in this deck, you have, like, the perfect targets to kill for it. The 5k is literally minuscule, but the fact that he can just get you so many rear guard circles so quickly, and you can just get double front triggers, pure dangerous. 3 copies of Ancient Dragon Spinal Driver. He's just good, and I like his art. Then we have 4 copies of, while yes, I am still disappointed that he focused on equip gauges, I do think he's really good now that I've played him. Eradication Ancient Dragon, Spinal Driver, Reverse Auto. So I really like his art. I like how he's kind of like going through a canyon running at top speeds. His vicious mouth. I like how all like the spines that was on Spinal Driver before, how they were kind of curled before. Now they're like straight up in a dagger formation, and he's literally throwing the reverse rings towards him. Like he doesn't have like the actual reverse lock outside of this little thing. He doesn't have it on his back because he's throwing them, which is really cool. It looks so cool in my mind. But anyways, Otto, when he's placed on Van, for free, you may draw a card. Well, you have to, but for free, you draw a card, choose a card from hand, call to rearguard circle, and then you may gauge it once. So you do that whole thing once. So draw, call, gauge. You don't have to gauge, and then you do that once. But if you had this in Soul, you do it 3 times. So you go draw, call, gauge, draw, call, gauge, draw, call, gauge. All for free. This gives you 3 free rear guards because you can just call them from top. And then you use Spinal Driver to kill 2 things, and then you get another Excel gift, and then you draw your call and 2 units get +5. And then you call Tyranno Legend from one of those skills, get +10, get a front stack. That's 4 free rear guards, right? Yeah, 4 free rear guards. Not 4 free, but like 4 rear guards for the cost of a counterblast, and 3 of them get gauged for free. Pretty deadly, pretty good, and that gives you 3 gifts because you definitely would have had to write Spinal Driver to do this, so you have at least 1. You have probably swung a Spinal, well, even if you didn't swing and use its skill, you definitely just used its skill to get another Excel gift, and then you wrote this, so you have at least 3 gifts. Cool. And then active Van once per turn. If your damage zone has 4 or more cards, counterblast 1, lock 2 rear guards with a quick gauges on them, and until end of turn, this unit gets continuous Van. If your draw trigger build a front trigger, all your front units with Ancient Dragon their cards get +1 crit for the turn. So my thing with this is it is a once per turn technically ability. I mean, obviously it's a once per turn, but like that crit ability, because it's continuous, that means it doesn't stack. So if you only see 1 front, well, if you see 2 fronts, it's only going to get 1 crit, not 2. But it's still good because even though it gives them the ability that all true Ancient Dragons had anyways, it definitely brings its more fuel to the other Ancient Dragons such as Spinal Driver and Tyranno Legend, at least making the entire archetype dangerous around the double crit instead of just the select miniature part of the archetype. My only thing is I really wish it didn't require that you locked 2 rear guards with a quick gauge, because half the time I have to lock my front row because I tend to fuck up and I murder my back row that has a quick gauges on them. But either way, I still get the job done whenever I use a skill because it's just very dangerous. All you have to do is be a limit break and have a counterblast, which I feel is a little hefty, but whatever. And you basically get to win the game the second you get Tyranno Legend. All around reverse, on his own, his second skill is not that impressive, but his first skill nets you so much advantage, and the second skill like loops so well with Tyranno Legend and these 2 that like genuinely I've had so many plays where all these 3 activate all at the same time. It is so fun doing and is amazing, and I love it. So full reverse. Then we have our Excel gifts, Excel 1, Excel 2. Pick which one you want between these 2, because I go really close to decking out with this deck, and I don't know which one is effectively better. So both of them, when acquired, they go on top left and then top right as new rearguard circles as a mandatory thing. I don't know why Bushy made that a rule, it just is. So Excel 1, the unit on that circle gets +10 during your turn, and Excel 2, you may draw a card, well, you have to draw a card when it's made, and then the unit on that circle gets +5 during your turn. So it gives less power, but adds more consistency as you're getting hand cards. You are in a risky situation if you play Excel 2, but at the same time, it at least makes you feel safe that you're going to constantly get hand cards to call to rearguard circles, so that's not much of an issue. Excel 1, you're getting more power, but you're getting less ability to call, so because when you make 5 gifts in a game, those 5 draws will genuinely make a difference. So Excel 2 or Excel 1, pick whatever you want. I think even though I know how close I come to decking out, whether I forget or whether I don't forget, I still think Excel 2 is better. But if you want to go Excel 1 because maybe you need to kill them quicker, go Excel 1 because Excel 1 can definitely be a powerhouse with front sacking and then extra crits. And then our quick shield, when one of your attackers plus craft 5k for the battle. Standard 5k, typically use it for discard fodder, but because Tyranno Legend is the only card in this deck that actually discards, you get a free 5k shield unless you use it for the PG, so that's pretty good. Any deck that can get a free 5k is a good deck to me. And that's it for the deck. I hope you guys enjoyed. All around over this time, I still kind of hate that they require a quick gauges for Ancient Dragons to work now, because I really thought they were going to be the unique deck of Tachikaze, but you know what? It's still good. It's very powerful. At least all of them have the ability to get extra crits now with Spinal Driver Reverse, and you just get so much plus just from riding this on top of this. Like, you get 4 rear guards, you get front sack, you just make a board out of nothing. It is terrifying. The army of dinos has come. You do not want to stand in this way, and you will get mauled down into demolition. So all around, I'm going to end it here. I hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, join Discord, follow Twitch, and I'll see you on the next one. Don't forget to stand up your vanguards.